I'm a killer. I have a sword. I'm ready to kill you. And I'm not just any killer. I'm an Asym killer. I'm tunneling you, right? I'm gonna stand here. I'm gonna do a little bah, and there's nothing you're gonna be able to do about it because you're gonna be dead, right? Because I tunneled you out. This video is about terrible killer designs in Asym games on Roblox. Balancing killers in Asyms is kind of a lost art. Well, I say lost art, but I suppose for something to be lost, it has to have been made. And killers are never balanced correctly in these games. The meals an average American eats are more balanced than some of these slops these games put out, especially recently. See, a lot of what I see going wrong are things that are fixable in a lot of ways, or at least a lot easier than a lot of people make it out to be, I think. Oftentimes, a killer is criticized for being too strong, too weak, boring and frustrating, and weak. Yeah, no one likes playing Tripwire. Don't make a Tripwire for your game. When in reality, it's generally pretty easy to avoid all these problems entirely by designing your killer well from concepting. I think this goes without saying, but getting the layout of the killer's moveset and design philosophy is literally the whole point of concepting. So why do killers keep ending up being absolute dog shit in these games? Well, oftentimes they end up misunderstanding the things that makes a killer strong in the first place. See, there are a few different things that make a killer strong in a game. Chase lethality and map pressure being the two biggest pillars to a killer's success. Chase lethality is quite simple. How deadly is your killer in chase? Can they catch up quickly, stay on a survivor's tail for extended periods without them being able to escape? Do they do massive damage? These are all factors that determines a killer's chase lethality, and everyone is itself a subsection of balance to the overall pillar. For example, say you want to make a rushdown killer. His whole shtick is that he's extremely fast and he can pretty much always catch up to the survivor without issue. If this is the case, then you can't really have him do a lot of damage, or else you get a killer that just always sticks to you and almost always guarantees a one chase without much you could have done. On the flip side though, if you make them too slow and too weak in terms of damage, well then you have a killer that can never really win a chase. Okay. So speed and damage are the two main sub-factors to chase lethality. This is typically why you see brutes be so slow but do massive damage and rushdowns vice versa. These two factors are almost always something you want to consider, especially if you're trying to make a fun and fair game. Either strike an extreme with one of them, or keep them more even grounded. The best even ground example I can give is 2011X from Outcome Memories. He's fast enough to keep up and does 45 damage per hit. That's enough for a 3-hit down, which is much slower than say Colossus being a 2-hit down, but chases between the two can often end up being around the same length because Colossus just simply doesn't run as fast as 2011X. Again, fairly simple all things considered. Balance speed out with damage to ensure that chases don't end unfairly, but you also have to make them strong enough to make the killer a threat. Map pressure is a completely different and harder to explain than chase lethality, because there are different kinds of map pressure. Unlike chase lethality, which more or less devolves into don't make them too fast and do too much damage, map pressure can manifest in all sorts of different ways. For instance, again using Outcome Memories as an example, Tripwire has little chase lethality. They don't do too much damage, they have trouble keeping up, and overall it's just hell to play as them. But what they lack in chase, they make up for in being able to lock down any area they want. This is what trappers are extremely good at, extreme map pressure to force survivors into unfavorable scenarios. But that is not the only type. Other types include having a lot of mobility or information. Note that chase mobility and map traversal mobility are completely different. You shouldn't really be using 2011X's ability to catch up to a survivor unless it's one of the two Sonics or Eggman. It's almost always purely a traversal tool, unlike Colossus's Charge where it's more for winning chases because it's so easy to bump with it. Anyway, map traversal is the other type of map pressure. Being able to always be on a survivor at all times is going to put a lot of pressure on them, due to them either being whittled down or forcing mistakes. 2011X is a great example of this. He never really loses anyone for long because he has guaranteed information and a teleport to any survivor that happens to be unlucky. These two, again, are things that you have to balance out. You can't have a killer restrict areas while also being able to blitz down survivors at lightning speed. That's just not fair. So with these two main pillars, you start to get a pretty good grasp on what makes a fun and balanced killer enjoyable to go against and play as. One that can balance out all the qualities or be a one trick in a certain way while lacking all the other qualities. It's a balancing act. Let's take a look at two examples of a fairly good designed character versus a pretty badly designed character. In Outcome Memories, Colossus, especially now while being fairly weak in comparison to how he used to be, is a fairly well designed killer, at least conceptually. He has absolutely no map pressure. His whole shtick is that he does a ton of damage very fast. His danger level is very much so a radius around him. There's no chance that he teleports to you or kind of just flies in out of nowhere. He's very loud, telegraphed, and overall does his job well. A brute that can't get anywhere particularly fast, but makes up for it with insanely fast kills and downs if you're not careful. Now compare this to Fleetway. Fleetway is the exact opposite. He has insane chase potential and incredible map pressure. He can always catch up to you pretty much no matter what. He has pretty good damage, especially considering his second phase with critical hits being very common. He always knows where you are due to two of his moves giving an indicator to every alive survivor on the map. The only thing he's missing is traps. Otherwise, he ticks off every box with flying colors. And now, yes, technically he does have counterplay of being able to get stunned or whatever, but his overall moveset has too much of everything for him to be fun to fight against. He has too much chase potential and too much map pressure. Now, of course, I'm going to make a survivor video just like this soon, but I want to talk about the inherent survivor-sided nature a lot of these games have, which promotes an unhealthy gameplay for the games in ways the developers just might not have intended. Now, before all the killer players in this game riot, yes, I am a huge advocate for tunneling and camping and all that. I do it. We all do it. But you have to admit, it's overall a pretty unhealthy yet necessary way to play the game. Whichever game you're playing. It's frustrating for survivors, and it's boring for killers, making for an overall unhealthy gameplay loop that just makes people mad at each other and makes them not want to play the game anymore. And while yes, some companies have tried to fix tunneling in the past, they went about it in the completely wrong direction. Dead by Daylight is a game that has tried to fix tunneling for years now, and currently it's near impossible to tunnel because of everything that they've given survivors. Due to perks like Decisive Strike, Borrowed Time, and many more, behavior has punished killers for doing it instead of rewarding players for not tunneling, which has narrowed their ability to make killers that could focus around niche playstyles like maybe taking people off one at a time because they were so focused on fixing an issue in the completely wrong way.
Shouldn't matter if a fucking trapper tunneled you. Look at what you brought. You have shouldered the fucking burden.
In this hypothetical asym we're making right here, I wouldn't want to discourage tunneling by super buffing survivors in a way that makes it impossible to do so. Let me explain. Say you're playing an Outcome Memories match. You have 6 minutes to kill 5 survivors. Every down gives you 15 seconds, and every kill gives you 30. This means that you could have a total of 45 seconds to gain from one survivor, and that is the static amount. This promotes tunneling, giving one person out of the game fast because you just don't really get a lot of time otherwise. Given that chases almost always last more than 15 seconds, you generally don't have time to go for each individual down. Meaning the person that got down first will probably die before you have downed 3 more people. That's not exactly fun. So I have a proposition. Let's take our scenario again. 6 minutes, 5 survivors. What if, for every unique down that you got before killing someone, the time you get for said down goes up? Say you down Tails first, you get 15 seconds. Then Amy, you get 20, Knuckles, you get 25, and so on. Adding up for every unique down without killing someone, resetting when you get a kill. This would promote a playstyle where you go for the long-term benefits of stacking the time, because you could end up getting like 40-45 seconds for one down if you end up downing the whole lobby before going for a kill. And while I'll admit, it's not a perfect system, but this is the type of thing I'm talking about when I say don't discourage tunneling, encourage other types of play. A system like this would really only be a net positive as a whole. Match variety would go up because of players' preferences and their playstyles, and while tunneling would still work, it may not always be the best play, which would reward higher skill play while also not making it impossible to do what you have to if you need to tunnel. You just won't get the time buffs. You're not discouraging the killers from tunneling, you're actively encouraging them to not tunnel, which would make people tunnel less, but you're also not taking away the possibility to maybe make a killer that needs to tunnel in the future, or something like that. And this could work in almost any asym, almost. The point I'm trying to make is that when killers are made in asyms, they aren't properly thought out, and they typically don't have any reason to play in a way that isn't considered completely optimal, which just ends up being boring for both sides. Like, imagine, in Dead by Daylight, every time a killer got a unique hook before hooking a survivor a second time, every generator that has progress gets like 5% gen regression and like blocked for 10 seconds or something, like a mini Pop Goes or whatever, Pop Goes the Weasel, I think the perk is called. This would encourage more fair play from the killer, while also maybe fixing some of the gripes a lot of people have with the generator speeds, at least a little. Sorry, that was a slight side tangent, that's my bad. All I'm saying is that people often overcomplicate killers a lot more than they really have to. I mean, I kind of explained everything that a killer needs to be fun, fair, and strong in less than 20 minutes. Of course, you'd have to tweak things depending on your game's systems and things along that line, but I think this is a fairly comprehensive blockout of how killers should be treated when they're being made. Essentially, the TLDR is balance out your killer's chase lethality and their map pressure to make them both fun yet fair to play against. And don't discourage different types of play. Instead of discouraging different types of play, encourage what you would want your community to do by giving them more rewards for doing that. Anyway, that's about it for this video. If you liked it, like it, dislike it. I have a Discord server, yada yada yada. Subscribe, please, whatever. I'll see you in the next video. I'm tired. I want to eat my mac and cheese. Goodbye.